You're listening to the Naturally Noelle Show, brought to you by Noelle's Naturals, all natural products that really work. And now, please welcome entrepreneur, wife, homeschooling mom of 4, and founder of the Noelle's Naturals brand of products, your host, Noelle Talley.
Hi, welcome to the Noelle's Naturals podcast. I am your host, Noelle Talley, and today I am joined by my friend, Abbie Sawyer. Hi.
Hey there.
Hi, thanks for coming. Abbie is a ministry wife, a mom of 4. She homeschools, and she is a budding entrepreneur, so I'm excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, I know. Actually, we had to schedule a podcast to force ourselves to hang out.
I figured if this is the way that we're going to get to hang out, well, then we'll do a podcast.
I know, it works. So we're just hanging out today and catching up and recording it.
There we go.
So let's just talk a little bit about how we met, which I think is kind of a cool story.
Yeah, so I think I ran into you the first time when we were at the birthing center that I was about to have my third at. And then we met at church again, and that's when I put the connection. Wait a second, the girl with the blue hair is at both of these places.
That's funny. Yeah, I did have blue hair there for a while. Yeah, so I was teaching a childbirth class, and you were a student in my class. And was I pregnant? Were we both pregnant at the time with our third?
I think you had just had Joy.
Yes.
That would have been my first birthing center birth. So when I found out that you had had all 3 of yours there, I was just amazed.
Yeah, so prior to that, you had hospital births.
Yeah, I had both my older 2 at a hospital in Denver. And didn't think I would even qualify for a birth center birth. But I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And then we kind of realized that we went to church together, and there were just all these different little things that I feel like God was just you two need to be friends, and just kind of brought us together.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, when I remember reaching out to you about some stuff that had to do with natural living, and I feel like at that point in time, you were the only person I could reach out to in the area. And I was like, she would know the answer to this.
That's so funny. Yeah, it is hard when you kind of have started this journey to living naturally, and sometimes it feels like you're very alone in that.
Right. And just as crazy how just in a couple years that has changed,
yes.
too. But yeah, you're right. It is. You're going against the grain in a lot of ways.
It really is changing, though. I feel like so many more people I know are aware of even just gut health and how important it is to eat clean and eat organic and to make better choices. I feel like it's getting more mainstream.
For sure. I think social media has probably helped.
Yes.
But I think with that too, then there's the whole side of trying to navigate what's true inside of the natural living world.
I know.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately.
Yes, it's really hard because there's so many different directions, and even just with diet, some people swear by keto and that's changed their life, and then other people are gosh, that's actually really not healthy long term for metabolic health and hormone repair and things like that, and this is good for you. Oh no, that's not good for you. Take this, don't take that. It's really hard.
Right, it can be so hard to navigate, and I think as moms navigating this, because we have the time to scroll and to see the information pop up, but we don't have the time to research necessarily. So it can be really confusing, and you don't really know, well, is this true? Is that true?
Yeah.
What's best for me? What's best for my family?
Yeah, definitely. That's something I hope to kind of address on this podcast, and it's going to take a long time to kind of comb through so many of those things, especially when I'm still kind of making my mind up or changing my mind on things.
Same.
Things 2 years ago that I was yep, this for sure, no sugar ever, all the stevia, and now I'm learning stevia is a hormone disruptor, and actually natural sugars are really helpful and beneficial, and I'm oh God, I don't know where to go.
Yep, I'm in the same boat, and I feel like so much of my journey has been learning to love myself through this process and let myself mess up and then get back up. So
yes.
Yeah, that's hard.
100%. That is such a good thing. I feel even just you coming and being on this podcast, and we were talking about before, if this is terrible, we'll just delete the whole thing and start over. It'll be okay.
Right.
We just need to like trek forward and do this thing, and it'll either be good or it won't. Yes, do hard things. I say that to my kids all the time.
Right, mantra in our house too.
Yes. So speaking of kids, let's talk a little bit about something that we have in common, which is that we both have 4 children.
Oh, yes, 4 children. Remember when I told you that I was going to have my 4th? And you said, well, we will never have a 4th.
Yes, I do. We were for sure not going to have a 4th. And then God had other plans for us.
Right. I secretly was pretty excited. I was like, we'll take that.
It's funny. It's such a hard thing, though, because I think only 2 of my children were actually planned.
Yeah.
Which, in a lot of ways, I think the Lord knew that I needed this, not even just for my life to be better or to fulfill me in some way, but I needed it to grow me and to teach me.
Right? Yeah.
That's been like the biggest thing about having so many kids is there's a lot of things you have to sacrifice that it's different from having 1 or 2 children.
For sure. I think if you had asked me, our plan was like the 5 years we were not going to have kids, and then we got pregnant 8 months after we got married. And if you had asked me, I had all these goals and all these dreams, and then really felt almost like this mourning process of, but now I can't pursue these dreams, which I totally disagree with at this point. Now looking back, you can still pursue your dreams, and you really just need to invite your children into those instead of like, well, my life as I know it is now over. I mean, there is obviously some things that change, right?
Yes.
But no, like invite them in. We're a family unit. We're going to keep pursuing mission and things we're all passionate about.
Yeah.
And
I love that. Yeah. So what does that look like for you, inviting your children in?
Oh, well, I think the biggest thing that we've done is we homeschool. Mm-hmm. And granted, there's so many different amazing reasons why we homeschool, but I think the fact that they're more freed up to travel with us for work, and really we're teaching them what we want them to learn.
Yes.
But really, too, like, they get to learn about our passions, not because they get to hear about it, or, when you hear kids describe, well, my dad goes to an office every day. But when Luke and I got married, we really wanted to, travel, and we really had a heart for people and living life with other people. And so then as our kids started joining our party, we wanted them to be able to travel with us for work. And, we've always kind of pursued a family schedule and style where if we are with people, they are with us. They get to enjoy that journey with us. And then, too, I think with homeschooling, they can bring their school books with them. We're in charge of what they're learning. And,
How is homeschooling for you?
Oh, that's with 4 kids. I don't even know most of the time.
I know. I feel the same way.
Oh, my goodness. I think sometimes I get really caught up with the books and the numbers and what we are or are not doing. Mm-hmm. And then I just remember, like, the whole reason that I chose this way of learning is ultimately that, 1, that they would know Jesus, and 2, that they would be virtuous. Yes. Right? Like,
yes.
So really coming back to like our motto, like our mission statement, so to speak, like, okay, if they don't finish the math lesson today, what does the relationship between my son and I look like at the end of the day? Like, was that broken over that math lesson?
I think that my husband and I have talked about that. Like, the things, when you look at adults who you think, wow, that's a really great person, or wow, that's a really crummy person, it's not like, how successful is he in his job, or how much money does he have, or how great of a mind does he have? It's is he a kind person, or how does he treat other people, or is he generous? Like, those are the things that you can't go back and relearn. Like, it's so hard, but we try to remind ourselves of that all the time. Like, do our children know that they are loved? Like, no matter what, are we teaching them like the principles of our faith? And are we teaching them how to be kind and loving to other people? And are they seeing us model that for them? Those are like the main things that I mean, later as they get into higher grades, I mean, to be fair, you and I both have younger children.
Right, yes.
You know, we're kind of early in our homeschooling
Ask us
career.
again in 10 years how we feel about algebra and things like that, and then our answer may change.
Yeah. But right now, while they're little, like, we have that freedom a little bit to really focus on values and...
Yeah, and to play. Like,
yes.
And how much they can learn interacting with their siblings and working through arguments.
Yes.
And it gives me the space to really walk through that with them. You know, when there's a blow up, how am I, you know, is it just about like, all right, say you're sorry, or are we addressing the heart issues? And really, that's a repetitive every day.
Yes.
But I count that as school. Like,
it
we
is.
are learning
Yes.
to do relationship with each other.
Absolutely. So what would you say has been your hardest transition, like, in number of children?
Oh, man. I think 2 to 3 had its struggles. I think some of that was just my mental state. I dealt with some depression and anxiety after my third was born. But then 4 for me, maybe it was because I had a toddler, like a little one, and a baby. That's been an adventure, I'm not going to lie. I feel like I've had to let go of any sort of expectation I had of what my house should look like.
Yeah.
How much laundry we have piled up, and just really be willing to say, like, this, not only does it have to wait, because I don't physically have the time to complete it all, but there are more important things to do. Like, these kids need my attention, and I want to give them that attention.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I want to touch on kind of like the depression and anxiety piece too, because after, I don't know what it is about the third, but after Joy was born, I had the same thing. I had really bad postpartum anxiety, and I have not with any of my other kids. It was such a interesting thing. And I was teaching childbirth classes at the time. So I was teaching and telling moms, like, hey, here's what to look for after your baby's born. Make sure you're being self-perceptive. Meanwhile, I was caught up on the depression piece of it. Like,
I think that's where I've been too, or in the past,
Yeah, where you think, oh, well, that's what postpartum depression looks like, where you can't get out of bed and you're not interested in things. But postpartum anxiety crept up on me. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that it's a completely different thing. And for me, it exhibited itself in, like, crazy, like, freakouts about really small things. Like, our oldest, I think, was 3 at the time. And I was, like, panicked over what we were going to do for kindergarten. Like, I was like, I can't homeschool. There's no way I can homeschool. I have to find a school for him. And I was, like, researching schools. And Adam's like, we've got, like, 2 years before we even have to think of this. And I was just really worked up about it. And even other things, like, I had, like, really blurry vision. And, like, I couldn't focus. And my mind would just, like, space out. And it was a weird time for me. I had to get off caffeine completely. And I was able to find some herbs that were really helpful for me, and really just making sure that I had boundaries and that I was taking time for myself. And that's so hard.
It is. It's so hard to find those boundaries. And I mean, I think I'm in a season right now where I've kind of come full circle, and I've been dealing with that anxiety again, and really having to address, like, okay, what are my core values again, like, as our family, but then what do I want to be about? At the end of the day, like, I'm going to have to set stuff aside that does not, that's not one of my core values, because my mental health, it's more important than accomplishing all of these things. And I think too, that the more children you have, granted, it's easier to let go of some things because you have to.
Right.
But then there's other things, like just the fact that everyone needs something. Mm-hmm. I can really go into a tizzy just with like the, mommy, I need this and I need breakfast. And by the time everyone needs their shoes tied and needs a diaper change, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my mind.
You know what's been new for me that I've really been trying to do better at since my 4th was born is relying on my oldest more. Because he's older. I mean, he's 7, so he's 7.5, and he wants to help. Mm-hmm. He's that oldest child. He's got that responsibility. He wants to be in charge. So I've really been, like, relying on him more. I think, was it you that told me that he will, like, put your other ones in their car seats or buckle them up?
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. My oldest is in charge of the 3rd. His job is to get her buckled in her seat every time you get in the car, because, 1, I don't want us lollygagging around every parking lot, and 2, like, it'll take us 20 minutes and it's hot here. We need the air conditioning on and we need to
for
move.
sure.
Yeah, no, giving them that responsibility, one, I think it empowers them and it gives them a place in your family, right?
Yeah.
Like, I am the oldest. I don't just get to boss around my siblings, but there's this, I have a job and I'm needed. And no, I think it's great to give them work to do.
The other day I had them out in the backyard doing yard work. They were raking up leaves and someone needed something inside. One of the girls needed something inside. And so I said, okay, Luke, you're in charge. Make sure your brother works because my second born can be a little difficult to motivate to get things done. So what I meant was for both of them to work together, but for him to make sure his brother kept working. And so as I'm going inside, I hear Luke go, Levi, get to work. I'm going to sit down over here.
That sounds like our house too. There's that, because there is that fine line, right? Like, give them the responsibility to find their place. But as the oldest, at least my son is like this too. Like, give him a little bit of responsibility and the tyranny goes
the power goes to his head. That's funny.
That sounds like our house.
Yeah. I as far as transitions go, I've been talking to someone I know who just had a baby, and I'm like, honestly, the transition from 0 to 1 is the most difficult.
By far, for sure.
Yes, because honestly, from 1 to 2 was my easiest because you know what you're doing, breastfeeding isn't as difficult, and you know what things to look for, and there's one adult for each child still. And then that 2 to 3 transition was pretty rough for us. That was...
Yeah, same. I think if like coming from our marriage, just the communication factor that and my expectations and what I assumed that he would jump in and do versus what he saw as necessary or not, right? I found myself so many times frustrated and it didn't have anything to do with that he wasn't capable or anything. It just, I wasn't communicating what I thought should be happening. Yeah. But the communication portion is huge with 2 to 3.
Absolutely. That's something, it comes naturally to me. So I'm always telling women, like, if you have a husband who is a generally good guy, which, most of us do, and maybe some people listening don't, but and that's another issue to kind of sort through. But if you have a generally good husband who cares about you, who loves you, you want to be together, the man wants to make you happy.
Right.
Like, tell him how to do that. Give him instructions on how to do that. And he, in most cases, will do it.
Right.
It's amazing. And because I hear so many women saying, like, oh, I just wish my husband would do this or he would do that. And I'm like, have you asked him? And they're like, well, no, he should just know. And I'm like,
well, no, he's not going to read your mind.
Like, just tell him what you need. I tell people this, I used to when I taught childbirth classes, but I would always say, like, after you have a baby, like, there are going to be needs that you have that are different than what you had before. Just ask for help. And even when friends come over to visit and they say, like, hey, is there anything I can do to help? And you're like, no, I'm fine. But that's such a great opportunity to let people into that space.
Yeah. And let them serve you.
Let them serve you. Because if you went to someone's house who had just had a baby and you said, hey, is there anything I could do to help? And she said, yeah, we don't have any clean towels, and my bottom hurts because I just pushed out a 9-pound baby. Would you mind helping me? Would you not jump to your feet and be like, thank you for the opportunity to, score points in heaven?
Right. No, it's so true. And I think that's probably the same way, like you were saying, most of our husbands feel. If they're generally a good guy and they love you, they want to help.
Yes.
And it's not a bad thing that his brain is rewired in a different way than yours.
Right.
It just means that he's thinking about other things. And there's beauty in communicating that and not harboring bitterness. Like, he didn't do this for me again. No, just tell him. Remind him.
That's a tough one, I feel like, for a lot of women.
I don't know why I still don't have it down.
I don't know why it's so hard for me. I'm just like, hey, here's what I'm going to need you to do. And thankfully, I have a very sweet husband who's like, yes, dear. What can I do for you?
So that's it. That's interesting. So being more diplomatic, but then you're introverted too.
Yes.
How do those two work together? Because I feel like I'm an introvert, but I also struggle with my husband and other people communicating needs or expressing myself because I find myself more retreated.
Inward. For me, the introversion extroversion piece is so much more about how I recharge than kind of how I behave. It's about I love people and I'm good with interpersonal relationships. I just really need a good deal of time alone to recharge, which is tricky with 4 children, especially the older they get, because I mean, our oldest now is like, we're having like actual conversations about things, and he's like deep. Like, he has very existential questions about life and God and the universe, and it takes a lot out of me. So it's
there
tricky.
Too. We are totally there too. And I keep thinking about the fact that they're just the littles are so hands-on, right? But then now we're hitting that point where I'm getting so excited. It's close to bedtime, but then the deep conversations want to happen, and I'm tired from still handling little ones all day.
I know.
And then they want to have these deep conversations, and I just have to remind myself so often, like, okay, I know as an introvert, I'm ready to go sit down and be by myself, but these are so important to have.
Yes. There's, and honestly, like, as far as balance goes, like, I have to remind myself, because I struggle with feeling guilty, like, no, buddy, like, I can't lay with you for 45 minutes tonight. Mommy's exhausted. I need some time alone. I feel like what I'm modeling for him is healthy boundaries and taking care of yourself, and that, you know, moms have needs that need to be met, and I can't always be serving you all the time. Like, you're going to have to, like, take care of your own emotional needs sometimes.
Right.
Because I don't want him to grow up being so codependent that he always needs someone else to fulfill those needs for him. So I have to, like, really release that guilt of, I didn't meet that need for him. But I'm also saying, hey, buddy, like, yes, let me give you 5 minutes of my time, but mommy really needs to go. And also, too, we talk a lot about, like, we need grown-up time. Mommy and daddy need some time, just us.
For sure.
Because I want them to know, like, I want them to see what marriage looks like. When you grow up, when you have a marriage, you need to put that first.
Yeah.
That's.
I think I said that to my 3-year-old last night. Like, it is dark outside now. It is mommy and daddy's turn to hang out. I will see you when the sun comes up. Yeah, just instilling in them that. And my husband loves to tell them, I chose your mom and I want to spend time with her. Yes. I love you guys and I want to hang out with you, but I want to spend time with your mom.
I tell my kids sometimes, I'm like, listen, one day you guys are going to get married and you're going to leave me, but I'm going to be with your daddy forever. So we got to put that first.
They don't understand that now. But
yeah,
just modeling that. Yeah, it's so important.
But as far as, like, being assertive and, you know, that sort of part of things, I think that's, for me, like, I really put a high priority on boundaries and on making sure that I'm getting my needs met. So I'm okay with being, like, comfortable on that and saying, here's what I need, whether it's from my employees who work at the company or with my friends or with my husband or my kids. I just feel like everyone is more comfortable when you know where you stand.
Yeah.
So when you just are direct, and I'm not saying to be, like, to barrel over people or to be, you know, unkind, like, always in love and kindness and patience, but to say, here's what I need, here's what I expect, you know, are we on the same page here? I think everyone, even if it's awkward or uncomfortable, if you're not used to that level of directness, I think in the end, everyone's like, you know what, I'm really glad that I know exactly what I'm getting here, you know?
Yeah, because then there's no, you know, what did she really want me to do? And I think I struggle with that more. And I think that's the beauty in the fact that we have 4 kids is I've had to learn to be more of that. Because if you had asked me my expectations of anything after our first, I would have just, I don't know. And as we've had more kids, I've learned, like, no, I do have needs too. And I do need you to do the dishes, or, you know, just being able to express myself that way. Yeah, I still have a long way to go, but I'm learning.
Yes. Seriously, having any kids at all, even just one kid, but having this many kids and having them home all the time has been the most, like, I tell people all the time, like, before I had kids, I was, because of my fertility journey and because of how difficult it was for us to finally have children, there was a long period of time where I was just so unhappy that I couldn't have a baby. And I was just like, if I just had a baby, my life would be so great and I would be so fulfilled and all my dreams would come true. And my whole childhood, I just dreamt of being a mother. And then I had kids and I was like, oh, they don't fulfill me. I fulfill them. Like, it's not about what they add to my life. Well, they do add to my life in a lot of ways, and they are such a joy, but it's really a lot more of me giving. And, like, every now and then they give, like, this tiny little morsel that keeps me going. But it's mostly just, like, sacrifice and sacrifice and sacrifice. And it's just... it's hard. It's so much harder than I ever imagined it would be, but it has grown me. It has shown me just how selfish I am and how impatient I am and how, like, all over the place I am. Having to be structured and be consistent for them has been such a challenge, because I'm just this, like, eccentric, you know, creative, like, all over the place, and that doesn't work with kids.
Right. They crave that routine.
Yes. It has its moments. I mean, definitely there are parts of my personality that work really well with kids, but it's also chaos. And when you have a lot of kids, you have to really keep things in line. Otherwise,
it's chaos.
Yes.
I think you're going to need to come over and evaluate my chaos.
Oh my gosh.
I'm thinking there's more chaos at my house.
I have a lot of help, though. Seriously. I mean, like, that's such a huge thing. Like, I mean, my mom is such a huge asset. I mean, she homeschooled me, so she's just, like, you know, a veteran homeschooler and just has a passion for it that I do not have. I have a calling for homeschooling, but I do not have a passion for homeschooling.
I think we're in the same boat. I was homeschooled too. I didn't realize that you were homeschooled as well. Yeah, I was homeschooled.
Yeah, so. I feel like we've talked about that before. That's why we're both kind of weird and nerdy. Yeah, but help is such a big thing. And, like, letting people help, asking for help and inviting people and being vulnerable and saying, like, hey, I can't do this alone. Like, it's too much, and letting people step into that, you know?
Yeah, and I think, so we've moved a lot. So, and we've always been away from family. So I think in some ways there's that hoop to jump through. Like, I need to go look for help. And I need to find somebody. But it also brings about community. And we've made friends that way because I'm making more friends because I'm getting somebody to help me. And have friends that want to spend time. You know, we spend time with our kids. And help is huge.
Yeah. So we were supposed to talk about balance. I don't know that we've actually even talked about balance. But so we did talk a little bit about our spouses. But, like, what are some ways that you guys really work to make sure that your marriage comes first?
Oh, well, I think as, you know, it's totally different when you have a new baby versus, you know, a year toddler versus an 8-year-old. But I think we've really been intentional about date nights. And then communication is huge. Yes. Communicating our needs. What do you need in this season? And, you know, him asking me that and me... I always say I'm, like, the most selfish person, and my poor husband. But I really have to be like, oh, yeah, Abbie, ask him. Yes. How are you, babe?
Yes.
But checking in with him, and are you okay? How do you feel about marriage?
Yeah.
Because I think it's so easy to get into the grind and then be like, oh, my gosh, we're not okay, right?
Yeah. I think, too, like, as women, because we tend to be, like, the squeaky wheel, like, we're the ones who are so much more, like, open about expressing our emotions and, like, saying, like, hey, like, I'm not feeling good about this. They aren't usually as quick. They might, like, act out in certain ways. They may be frustrated and maybe they're not saying the reason or even realizing the reason that they're frustrated. But I feel like because we're so, like, expressive, we're like, well, you can't possibly be upset about anything. Like, it's me. I'm the one who's upset. Like, you need to fix this.
Right. And if we go back to the idea of, like, our husbands want to make us happy, I think especially in our case, like, my husband is so good at being aware of those things because he does. He wants to see me happy. And he's just so quick to, you know, what do you need today? How can I help you today? And, man, he's just the saint in that sense because I couldn't do it without him.
Yeah, seriously. I love to hear that because I see some of the stuff he posts on social media and sometimes I'm like, is this for real?
Right. It is. He really does do that. Like, he will, he comes in at lunch and praise the Lord that his job is flexible enough that he can do this, but I'll have a migraine and he's like, go to bed. I'll take the kids.
I love that.
And yeah, no, I'm really, really thankful for that.
What a good guy.
He is.
We both got lucky. We both have really good, sweet husbands who
Yeah.
are just really good dads. And I know not everybody has that. And that's why, honestly, like, the boundaries and the communication is so important if you don't have that support. Because if you're not being clear with yourself about your needs and where, you know, maybe needs aren't getting met, and if you're not able to be direct and say, here's what I need, and if your partner is not open to, like, readily meeting those needs, like, are you able to say, okay, well then here's what I'm gonna have to do to take that into my own hands and make sure I'm getting my needs met? Because you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Right.
And when you have children, like,
oh, that cup just keeps pouring.
They need Speaking of that, do you feel like your kids drink beverages just all day long?
And they have to use a new cup every single time? Yeah.
Constantly washing
We
cups.
have, like, these cute little tiles now sitting out on the counter. And, like, you put your cup on the tile.
Ooh, I like that
Does
idea.
it work? We're getting there. Like, yeah, one of my summer projects is we're going to paint our own tiles.
I like that.
So that, you know, some ownership. This is my tile.
I feel like there should be a meme that's like, motherhood is just constantly picking up cups.
Oh my gosh. Or, you know, one child pours a drink and the other one spills said drink.
Yes.
I'm like, okay,
Yes.
cool.
There are so many things as a mom that I just am constantly having to do that I'm like, I never in my life thought that this would be my reality.
Socks? Do you guys have a sock problem?
Socks and underwear.
Oh my gosh.
Just
everywhere.
all over the house.
I don't
Every
even
corner.
understand it.
Every corner of the house.
And then you hear, Mom, I don't have underwear. Like, go look under the couch. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. We have an apple core problem. My kids just finish eating an apple and then just toss it places. And one time we were cleaning the house and we found, I'm not kidding, 12 apple cores
Oh my goodness.
under the couch. They had just been tossing them under there.
So funny.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah, we've definitely had our share of that.
At least
or
now
things in
we-
Tupperware. My daughter loves, like, putting things in containers, so I'll find old food
Oh.
in a Tupperware because
no.
she's taken said snack and I don't realize it because I'm attending to somebody else, and what do you know? It's in her dresser.
Gross. The worst, I think the actual worst, is finding like a 3-week-old cup of milk.
Oh.
Like a sippy cup of milk.
Oh, you just throw it away.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I've thrown them in the garbage a lot of times. Not before smelling them. I don't know why I torture myself with that. I'm like, I know this is gonna be horrible, but
I just gotta make sure. Is it worth the trash, or do I try to save it?
oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if this has been educational or discouraging or
Oh.
I don't know, but this has definitely been good to get together and connect and
Yeah, it's fun to catch up.
lament over some of our issues.
Right.
Well, I would love to have you back sometime, and you know, maybe we'll have new topics to talk about by next
for
time.
sure.
But probably not. Probably just do the same
Still
stuff.
in the trenches.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening to the Noelle's Naturals podcast, and we will see you guys again soon. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Naturally Noelle Show, empowering you to live a more natural life, one step at a time.